Welcome back to the Garden with Joy and Holly radio show. Happy to have you around. Thank you for allowing us to be part of your world for a little bit. Harvesting and using fallen apples and other produce, can it be done safely? Well, we are going to discuss that. Now, this was something that was brought up in one of the social media groups that I was not aware was a concern, and I'm glad we're going to discuss this because maybe many of you were unaware that this was actually a potential health hazard.
Right. So what we're talking about here is as produce falls to the ground, gets damaged, maybe sits there for
gets bruised and cracked.
Gets cracked a day or two before you harvest it. You don't realize it's there. You find it. Oh, I found this pile of tomatoes, apples, whatever it may be, or this pumpkin split open, or cantaloupe, or
watermelon, tomatoes, peppers, pears, peaches.
So what happens is that it falls to the ground, and then if it's cracked open, it can be susceptible to infiltration during the washing step. So you might think, I'll just wash this off and still eat it, and it can cause problems. So the best ways to avoid this is to keep in mind that just because it's possibly okay to wash it off, or also look for insects. So you might find a tomato that looks okay, and then you see like this little split, or like a bite.
Well, and speaking of the tomatoes, you got to get your tomatoes off the ground. 50% of your tomato harvest is lost if you don't support them by cage or Florida weave or some type of tool. Or anyway, but then you get a tomato will fall and have a little crack, and you're like, okay, I'll just bring it home. And you bring it home, put it on the counter. In like 12 hours, it starts to smell. And then all of a sudden, there's like a million gnats that all of a sudden have come from nowhere and is feeding in this little crack of the tomato.
Right. So, and with that being said, especially like you might still, there's people who are still going to eat it. We know that. But definitely don't use it for like canning or any sort of long-term food storage. If you do, if you have a few drop pieces of produce and they look okay and you want to take that risk, then definitely go for it. But again, don't put it in the canning supply. Yeah,
cut the bad portion off and then smell the portion that has not been damaged and make your own judgment whether or not you should utilize that portion of the fruit or vegetable for consumption.
Right. So, yeah. So what you also want to keep in mind is dropped apples. And a lot of people have apple trees these days. A lot of people go apple picking.
Because of Johnny Appleseed.
Because of Johnny Appleseed. So say you have an apple tree or you go apple picking with your
that is the biggest scam in the world. You ever notice that?
And you pick your own anything?
I'm going to have a farm, and I'm going to have a bunch of apple trees, and then I'm going to have people pay me to go out, and they pick the apples and have their little experience in the little fall festival photographs.
I mean, it makes sense because it is an experience.
And the people, if you've done this, when you see cars drive in the driveway, if they are the money spenders or they're just doing it because they want to, or based on
some people will go and they will just, because there's no entry fee usually, they'll just go and take their picture sometimes too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but you're probably not supposed to do.
That's probably frowned upon.
Probably frowned upon. But I do agree it's kind of a scam, especially when I can
not to the farmer.
I can get a bag of apples at certain stores for...
Now, strawberry picking, raspberry picking, that's different.
That is different. Yeah. Nobody's taking pictures in the strawberry
field. Look at me. But with the apples, even if your own tree, your own pear tree, your own apple tree, your whatever that is, whatever fruit you have, you feel bad whenever they have fallen to the ground and they become damaged. You're like, I don't want to waste this. I will do what I need to. I can turn it into apple cider vinegar or pear cider vinegar or something like that. Or I can juice the good parts of it. I don't want to waste it.
Right. So then this is why you should not eat those apples
that have been apples or fruits that have been damaged.
Right. Well, this is apples specifically. Okay. If there's a mycotoxin called petulin, and it's produced by molds like penicillium, aspergillus, and then a few others. And what happens is this toxin is heat stable, which means it's resistant to heating even at pasteurization temperatures.
It doesn't kill it.
No.
Yeah.
You cannot see you cannot see or smell this toxin, and there's no way to know if it's present without laboratory testing. So I doubt you're sending your dropped apples to the lab.
No, nobody's doing that.
So this can cause serious illness, especially to the nervous system, and also could cause problems with blood flow, nausea, vomiting, other symptoms. So if you have a bunch of dropped apples, you're apple picking.
How rare is this? What is the percentage that you may get this if you go ahead and use those drop apples or pears or peaches? I don't have that statistic. We're just providing the information. This is from the University of Minnesota Extension under the Fruit and Vegetable News. You can certainly search that and read all in depth. There's photographs that show certain things that are of the fruits and vegetables that we were speaking about.
Now,
yes,
if you are for some reason sending these apples to a cider maker who is going to make hard cider via fermentation process, they have the special step called the kill step. So a lot of these fallen apples do go to hard cider companies that will use these apples. So not all these apples are going to waste.
Okay.
Use these fallen apples because they have this in the fermentation process, this extra.
So this is when they're making like wine. Is that
hard cider?
Hard cider, alcoholic,
which is like alcoholic cider.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in that process, there's this
the kill process.
It does. Yeah. Basically,
it's a step.
It's a step. It does something with the microorganisms, and it makes it safe to produce this alcoholic cider because of that process. So don't feel bad for the fallen apples.
Well, I mean, you're not taking them out of your yard.
A boozy night because of the fallen apples.
Well, whenever we had a big, large pear tree for many years, self-pollinating pear tree in our front yard of the place that we currently live. And it has died. But at its peak, it was probably 35 feet tall, 20 feet wide, and half of the tree was overcasting on the pavement, and the other half was the grass. And it never failed. Every year, it was loaded with, no exaggeration, at least 800 to 1,200 pounds of pears. And you would wait until they're about ripe, and always right before they got ripe, there would always be a windstorm, and 90% of the pears would hit the ground, and there would literally be 6 to 8 inches of pears on the ground surrounding the whole tree. Now, some of them I was able to salvage. We didn't know this, so we did utilize some of them. We took the non-damaged ones. When they hit the pavement, they just splattered, so they were no good. They were compost. And the other ones in which were slightly damaged, I would take and bury them in the garden, trench method. And in the fall, you just take them like you're going to plant potatoes, go about 6 inches, 8 inches deep, and just load that ditch up with the bruised, damaged, splattered pears by the bucket load and feed the soil.
There's nothing wrong with that. So, yeah, that's one way you can make a difference with your dropped produce.
Because it will, in the fall, when those things are flattering, there's a lot of sweat bees, there's a lot of bees, because it's that last warm time of year, and these insects are looking for that sweetness, that sugar, the moisture, and it can be quite dangerous in some conditions when those pears and apples and fruits are falling and laying on the ground. And it doesn't take long for them to begin to ferment once they hit the ground and they start cracking in with that high fall temperature right before it gets cold.
Right. So it is against federal regulation for food growers, farmers, whatever you want to call them, producers to sell dropped produce.
Has to be pristine.
Yeah. But it does not include root crops. So carrots, potatoes, whatever. Crops that grow on the ground, such as cantaloupe, and then produce that is intentionally dropped to the ground as part of the harvesting, such as walnuts. Mm-hmm. So if you go to an apple farm and they say don't pick the apples off the ground,
there's a reason why.
They're covering themselves Don't be a ding-dong. Leave those apples alone.
Be a ding-dong somewhere else.
Be a ding-dong somewhere else. I actually have a coworker who grows apple trees, and he's very particular about his apples. He doesn't want to lose them. So he will buy these little bags to keep the different insects off of them, but also so that they don't less and less drop. And he puts these bags around each apple to protect them.
Well, summer is slowly disappearing. The days are getting shorter, nights are getting longer, and at some point cooler. Kids are in school, and you have probably forgot about your lawn.
Just because it is fall, we don't want to forget about our yards, those Japanese beetles either. They may be gone, but they're not far. Not only do they feast on your roses and berries this summer, they lay eggs in your turf so that they can start again next year. Take a stand with phylum's Grub-Gone. Grub-Gone is a non-chemical Bt granule that specifically targets scarab pests and their larvae. Simply apply the granule with a spreader, irrigate into the soil, and let the naturally occurring bacteria do its job.
Not only is Grub-Gone easy to use, but it is the only non-chemical choice that effectively controls grubs. And the best part about it, it's non-toxic to bees and other pollinators and beneficial insects. In fact, Grub-Gone has no label restrictions for use around flowering plants like mums in the fall. So you don't have to worry about getting those you don't have to worry about those bees being toxified and killing the hive when you're trying to get rid of the beetles. You can find all this information out, plus a whole lot more, at grubgone.com from Phylum Bioproducts. Just remember, grubgone.com.